The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Imagine logging into your computer on a random Monday morning. You check your email, you look at your schedule, and you suddenly realize that a machine, an algorithm that you've never seen, that you don't understand, and definitely can't question, has just decided to pass you over for a promotion.
Yeah, that is a gut punch.
Right. And not only that, it lowered your performance rating for the quarter and, assigned you to the absolute worst projects on the board. And the real kicker here, there is no human manager to complain to.
Just a scream.
Exactly. You can't knock on an office door. You are just staring at a blinking cursor. So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are exploring a profoundly important, frankly fascinating article by Dr. Jonathan H. Westover, and it's titled Organizational AI Transparency and Employee Resilience.
It's such a crucial paper.
It really is. Our mission today is to break down the exact blueprint for how organizations and, how you as an individual can survive and actually thrive in a world where algorithms are rapidly becoming our new middle managers.
Which is a critical mission because, we are looking at a massive structural disconnect in the modern workplace right now. The data shows that by 2024, 77% of organizations are using AI for at least one major business function.
77%?
Yeah, we're talking HR, operations, customer service, you name it.
Yeah.
But the human reality on the ground, it's completely out of sync with that technological push. Fewer than half of workers actually trust their employers to use AI ethically.
Wow.
And even more startling, 62% of employees are terrified that algorithmic bias is going to actively damage their careers.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to figure out how to fix this incredibly broken modern workplace, we first have to understand what happens when AI is treated as this black box.
Right.
It's one thing to hear the broad statistics about 77% adoption rates, but it's an entirely different reality when we look at the daily, immediate impact on a worker who just wants to do their job well, but feels like they're being secretly judged by a machine.
Exactly. And the core issue is that AI in the workplace, well, it isn't just a fancy calculator or a background sorting tool anymore.
It's making the actual calls.
Yes, it has crossed the line into being an automated decision maker. It's evaluating resumes, it's determining weekly schedule assignments, and it is dynamically allocating workflows.
Which is terrifying if you don't know how it works.
Oh, absolutely. When these systems are completely opaque, when they operate as a closed black box, employees lose what organizational psychologists call procedural justice.
Procedural justice. So the idea that the system itself is fair, even if I don't always get the outcome I want.
That's it, exactly.
Wow.
It's the fundamental belief that the processes governing your work life are fair, consistent, and crucially explainable.
Right.
When you lose procedural justice, you lose the psychological contract of employment. You stop believing that hard work leads to a predictable reward.
It feels like playing a high-stakes board game where you're trying to win, but only the banker knows the rules.
That is a perfect way to put it.
And worse, the banker keeps changing the rules, won't tell you what they are, and still expects you to play perfectly. But I have to push back a little here, because I know exactly what corporate executives would say to this.
Oh, sure.
Isn't some level of opacity necessary? Like, if a company tells everyone exactly how the performance algorithm works, won't employees just game the system instead of actually doing their jobs?
It's a very common corporate fear, but well, the research proves that the exact opposite happens when you hide the rules. Let's look at a 2022 field study of a logistics firm.
Okay.
They rolled out a brand new AI route optimization system for their truck drivers. Now put yourself in the cab with one of these drivers. You know these roads. You know the traffic pattern.
You've been doing it for years.
Exactly. And suddenly a screen is telling you to take a route that makes absolutely no sense to you. The drivers didn't understand how the AI worked, but they deeply suspected it was quietly feeding data into their monthly performance reviews. So what do you think they did?
Oh, man, let me guess. They rebelled.
They actively ignored the AI's optimal routes 34% of the time.
34%.
Yes. They relied on their own judgment, even when the AI was objectively right. effectively sabotaging the very data quality the AI needed to function.
Wow. So they were literally driving the wrong way just to maintain a sense of control over their own jobs. They'd rather be inefficient on their own terms than efficient on a machine's terms.
It precisely. And what's fascinating here is that opacity doesn't prevent system gaming. It actually suppresses innovation and completely kills knowledge sharing.
Really?
Yeah, take call center workers. Another study looked at workers who were suddenly subjected to opaque AI quality monitoring. Imagine you're on the phone trying to help a frustrated customer, and you know an algorithm is listening, but you have no idea what it's scoring you on.
That sounds incredibly stressful.
It is. And instead of getting better at their jobs, these workers' attempts to solve novel customer problems dropped by 28%.
Because they were terrified of stepping out of bounds. Like, if you don't know where the boundaries are, you just stop moving.
Exactly. They stuck rigidly to their scripts. When you hide how the machine works, you don't get compliance. You get knowledge hoarding, extreme caution, and a total collapse of creative problem solving.
You create a workforce that is paralyzed by invisible tripwires.
It's exactly it.
And if you take that isolation, the truck driver out on the road alone, cut off from the logic of the system, or the call center worker trapped in a cubicle that perfectly mirrors the modern remote worker.
It really does.
Which brings us to a massive wrinkle in all of this: the hybrid work penalty. If you are listening to this from your home office right now, you are incredibly vulnerable to this. Why does working from your living room make this black box problem exponentially worse?
Well, it comes down to a phenomenon called structural invisibility. The research shows that only 22% of remote workers report receiving clear information about how AI is being used in their evaluations.
Only 22%.
Yeah, compared to 41% of on-site workers. When you're remote, you completely miss the informal organizational context.
Right. You don't get the water cooler chats where a manager casually leans over and explains, oh, hey, don't worry about that new scheduling software. It's just a pilot program. It won't affect your bonus.
Exactly. Digital communication prioritizes efficiency. You get an email announcing a new software integration, and that's it. Those nuanced, comforting, informal explanations just vanish when you aren't physically in the building.
You're just left staring at a screen in your kitchen, wondering if the software is judging how long it takes you to reply to a Slack message.
And that takes a severe psychological toll.
I bet.
Researchers recently looked at over 400 hybrid workers to see how this plays out in real life. And it perfectly mirrors another study involving hospital nurses. For those nurses, an opaque AI scheduling system, literally just a machine telling them when to work without explaining why, actually caused a 31% spike in emotional exhaustion.
31%. That's not just frustration. That is literal burnout directly caused by inscrutable technology. You can't exactly ask a machine to swap a shift so you can pick up your kid from school. So what does this all mean?
It means we have to look at the psychological mechanisms employees use to survive and grow. The study of those 412 hybrid workers focused on two vital survival mechanisms that are actively destroyed by the black box.
Okay, what are they?
The first is job crafting. This is when you proactively reshape your role, tweaking your daily tasks, learning new skills, and building relationships to better fit your personal strengths.
Makes sense.
The second is career self-efficacy. That is your internal, deep-seated belief that you can successfully navigate career challenges and occupational transitions.
Basically, job crafting is you making your job work for you, and career self-efficacy is your confidence that you actually have a future in your industry.
Yes. And the findings here are critical to understand. The research proves that AI transparency fully mediates job crafting through trust.
Wait, break that down for me. Mediates job crafting through trust. What does that actually look like on a random Tuesday afternoon?
Think about it this way. If you don't know how the AI measures your success, why would you bother trying to improve your skills?
You wouldn't. You'd be paralyzed.
Exactly. You wouldn't try a new workflow because the AI might penalize you for taking too long. But if the AI is transparent, you trust the organization. And because you trust the organization, you feel psychologically safe enough to experiment, to learn, to job craft.
That makes total sense.
Furthermore, transparency directly boosts that career self-efficacy. When a company opens the black box, you regain the confidence to actually take charge of your career path again. Communication restores the map.
Okay, so if this black box approach is actively destroying employee trust, causing burnout, and freezing career development, the diagnosis is crystal clear. But who is actually getting it right? Let's pivot from the problem to the solution. How do smart companies put the human back in the loop and fix this broken psychological contract?
The foundation of the fix is proactive communication, but it has to be highly specific. The research shows that advanced notification of AI use reduces an employee's perceived injustice by a massive effect size. Statistically, a D of 0.58.
For those of us who haven't taken statistics in a while, an effect size of 0.58 is a big deal, right? That means it's making a highly noticeable, tangible difference in how fairly people feel they are being treated.
It's a huge shift in workplace morale. But here is the catch. Sending a generic corporate email saying, "We are now using AI to enhance productivity," completely fails.
Of course it does.
Employees require what researchers call content specificity. They need to know the exact inputs the AI uses, the decision logic it follows, and crucially, the human oversight involved.
I was actually blown away by what Unilever did here. In 2019, they deployed an automated AI screening tool for entry-level video interviews. Now, imagine you are a 20-something applying for a job and you are told an AI is going to analyze your video interview.
Right, that sounds like a dystopian nightmare.
Completely. But Unilever didn't hide it. They created a dedicated microsite explaining exactly how the AI worked. They told candidates, the AI is analyzing your vocal tone, your facial expressions, and your verbal content.
They disclosed the specific competencies it looks for, too.
Yes. They provided sample good answers, and they explicitly stated the AI was just one input for a human hiring manager.
They essentially gave away the answers to the test.
They did, and it worked brilliantly. Because they removed the fear of the unknown, Unilever saw a 16% higher application completion rate among candidates who read the site.
People stopped abandoning the application out of fear.
Exactly. And even better, they saw a 23% improvement in the diversity of new hires compared to their old, human-only manual process.
That is a perfect example of content specificity shifting the mindset from, being interrogated by a machine to collaborating with a transparent process.
Are there other companies doing this well?
Oh, yeah. Another brilliant corporate exemplar is Telefonica, the global telecommunications giant. They tackle the oversight problem by implementing a framework called Responsible AI by Design.
Catchy name.
Right. Anytime their talent management AI suggests a role change, a promotion, or a development program for an employee, there's a mandatory human-in-the-loop review. A real manager has to sign off. And here's the genius part. They publish quarterly reports showing their human override rates.
Wait, meaning they publish exactly how often a human looks at the AI's recommendation and says, no, the machine is wrong.
Exactly. And that human override rate averages about 18 to 22%.
Okay, I have to stop you there. Telefonica actively publishes a quarterly report proving to the entire company that humans have to override their AI up to 22% of the time. Doesn't broadcasting the AI's mistakes make the company's multi-million-dollar tech investment look really bad? I can imagine executives cringing at that.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, publishing that 22% failure rate is the entire point.
Right.
Yes. It is the ultimate proof of credibility. Think about it. If a company tells you, don't worry, a human reviews all the AI decisions, but you never see the human actually change the outcome, what do you assume?
Well, you assume the human is just rubber stamping whatever the computer says. You assume the human isn't really paying attention.
Exactly. By loudly publicizing the errors in the human corrections, Telefonica proved the oversight was real. They proved they were actually paying attention.
Ah, I see.
And because of that visible vulnerability and honesty, they saw a 31% improvement in employee trust regarding their talent management systems. Admitting the machine is flawed proves the humans are still in charge.
That is completely counterintuitive, but so brilliant. But let's bring this back to our hybrid and remote workers. Telefonica proves humans are in charge of the final say, but how do you assure a remote worker sitting alone in their house that the AI isn't inherently favoring the employee who is visibly sitting at a desk in the physical office? How do we solve that remote anxiety?
That is the defining challenge of hybrid AI. And tackling it requires what we call participatory design. You can't just drop an algorithm onto a workforce. You have to build it with them.
Give me an example.
Look at Hitachi. Before they rolled out a massive AI workforce planning system, they didn't just quietly turn it on in the background. They held extensive workshops with 280 employees across 15 different countries. They explicitly asked their people, what are you afraid this AI will do to you?
And let me guess, the remote workers voiced exactly that fear. They were terrified the AI would penalize them for not having physical face time with management.
That was their primary concern. So Hitachi took that feedback and explicitly built productivity metrics that weighted actual output and digital collaboration, purposefully ignoring physical location.
Yep.
And they disclosed this math transparently to the entire company. The result was phenomenal. 78% of employees felt they were evaluated fairly by the AI. To put that in perspective, their baseline was only 49% who felt traditional human managers evaluated them fairly.
Wait, the transparent AI was trusted more than the human managers.
Yes.
That's wild, but I guess it makes sense if the rules are clear. And Shopify did something incredibly similar for their project matching, didn't they?
Yes. Shopify tackled this by creating an entire internal algorithm transparency hub, specifically for their GSD Get Stuff Done project matching AI. This tool decides who gets to work on what.
Right.
Remote workers could log into this hub and see absolute mathematical proof that the algorithm did not penalize them for being in a different time zone or having less synchronous meeting availability. It completely leveled the information playing field between headquarters and the remote staff.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because it's not just about showing people the code or a transparency hub, it's about teaching them how to read it. IBM took this a step further. They launched a program called AI at Work.
A great program.
They didn't just say, here is our AI, trust us.
Yeah.
They actively trained their HR and sales teams on machine learning basics, data patterns, and sources of algorithmic bias.
They invested in algorithmic literacy.
Yeah, exactly. I like to think of it this way. Instead of treating their employees as passive, helpless passengers locked in the back seat of a self-driving car, IBM taught them to be AI mechanics. They popped the hood.
I love that analogy.
And because of that algorithmic literacy training, IBM employees became 34% more likely to proactively request data corrections when they spotted an error in the system. They didn't cower in fear. They felt empowered to grab a wrench and fix the engine.
That empowerment is exactly what organizations need to survive the next decade. But this brings us to a critical transition in the research.
Yeah.
Individual company hubs, microsites, and literacy programs are fantastic starting points. However, AI is evolving by the minute.
Very true.
An algorithm that is perfectly transparent today might become impossibly complex and opaque next month after an update. So how do organizations prevent these transparency initiatives from instantly becoming obsolete?
Right. How do we future-proof this trust? Because a one-time workshop isn't going to cut it when the tech updates every Tuesday.
The research outlines a crucial concept called long-term algorithmic governance. The fatal mistake most organizations make is treating AI transparency as a centralized, top-down mandate from corporate HR. Sustainable transparency requires a shift to distributed algorithmic stewardship.
Okay, distributed algorithmic stewardship. I have to be honest, that sounds like a massive corporate buzzword invented in a boardroom. What does that actually look like in practice for the listener right now?
It means moving the power away from a centralized IT desk and giving it to local teams. You designate local department coordinators who actually understand the specific daily workflows of their coworkers.
Ah.
Think about it. A marketing team's AI usage is completely different from a structural engineering team's usage. These local stewards act as translators. They take the broad technical AI guidelines and translate them into context-specific realities for their peers.
So they become the accessible, familiar human face of the algorithm.
Exactly. It's Sarah from marketing, explaining how the new tool affects the weekly content schedule, rather than a faceless memo from global HR.
That is so much better.
This raises an important question, though. How do we recalibrate the fundamental psychological contract for the long term? It means leadership has to treat algorithmic governance as an ongoing, living dialogue, not a one-time press release. It means having explicit trust repair protocols.
Trust repair protocols, meaning when the AI inevitably makes a biased mistake or routes a project poorly, you have a plan.
Exactly. When the machine fails, you don't sweep it under the rug or blame a glitch. You acknowledge it publicly, you explain exactly why the failure happened, and you repair the trust proactively. You show the math.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of all this research and why it matters so much to you, the listener. The narrative out there is that employees are universally resisting AI.
Which just isn't true.
It's a myth. We aren't inherently anti-technology. We know AI can reduce human bias. We know it can find hidden career opportunities or project matches that a busy human manager might completely miss. What we demand, what the modern worker demands, is agency. We just want to know how the game is played. When you implement procedural justice, when you build transparency hubs and train people to be AI mechanics, transparency takes AI from being this terrifying, opaque threat and turns it into a literal tool for workforce resilience.
And the organizations that truly understand this, the ones that invite their employees into the participatory design process, are going to completely outpace those that don't. Transparency isn't just an HR compliance hurdle. It is a massive competitive advantage. It unlocks discretionary effort, it fosters innovation, and it builds unshakable trust.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the algorithmic workplace. Thank you so much for joining us, for being curious, and for exploring this custom-tailored breakdown of AI transparency. We hope it gives you a new lens to view the tools you use every single day.
It's been a great discussion.
Definitely. But before we go, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've just spent all this time talking about how crucial it is to force AI to be transparent. We need content specificity, bias audits, and published human override rates just to feel secure. But think about this. If explicit explanations and mathematical proof of fairness become the absolute gold standard for a healthy workplace, will we eventually demand that exact same level of granular transparency from our human managers?
Oh, wow.
Will holding a machine to this incredibly high, relentlessly documented standard finally expose just how opaque, arbitrary, and biased human decision-making has been all along? Think about that the next time you sit down for a performance review. Until next time, stay curious and keep diving deep.